So I'm very happy to introduce Jan. I think most of you might know about King Art. They just recently won a couple of awards again as Best Studio, and especially for their recent game Iron Harvest, which won, I think, 4 awards alone at DEP. I'm not quite sure that it was many. And yeah, even more nominations. But before all of those awards came in, of course, that game had to be funded, and Jan will tell us today what that looked like. I think Jan is, yes, perfect.
Can you see my screen and can you hear me?
Yes, both.
Okay, that's excellent. Okay, yeah, then let's start. I want to talk about crowdfunding. So first of all, maybe some words about us and why I think we can tell a thing or two about crowdfunding. So King Art was founded like 21 years ago now. We shipped over 50 games, and at the moment there are around 75 developers here in Bremen. And we also have, of course, external contributors. And we develop games for all major platforms. So for Microsoft, Sony, PC. Yeah. Personally, I'm the creative director here. So what I do is mostly game design related stuff. I do a lot of writing, but also producing. So basically, I do everything that is fun about game development, and my partner Mark does you know, all the contracts and the money things and everything that is awful about game development. And so that is an excellent partnership here. But the important thing is we did a bunch of Kickstarters. We did 4 Kickstarters in total. The first one, 2013, which was relatively early on. It wasn't, you know, the Kickstarter heyday, but it was pretty early. I think it was one of the first Kickstarters from Germany. At that point, you needed to, you know, you needed to have a company in the US to make a Kickstarter. So we had to, you know, basically start a company and do all sort of weird stuff to even be able to do a Kickstarter. That's much more, that's much easier today. So as a German company, you can just, you know, start a Kickstarter, no problem. Kickstarter actually has like an office in Germany, or at least people representing Kickstarter in Germany. So you can ask them directly if you have any questions, and all of that is great stuff. And yeah, we did 3 Kickstarters in 3 years. And then a couple of years later, we did a Kickstarter for our current project, Iron Harvest, which turned out to be the biggest Kickstarter from Germany to this point. So yeah, if you think about Kickstarter, or why should you maybe think about doing a Kickstarter? There are more, I mean, money, of course, is more an important point, but there are actually others as well. I mean, you have, you know, you get, ideally, you get a lot of money, but you also get, you know, fans. You get people who are excited for the games, who might support you, who might give, you know, feedback, and you might get a lot of good PR, you know, so people might heard of you or your game, and, you know, so there are a lot of good reasons to do it. But at the same time, it is more complicated than many people might think. And so there's a lot of things, you know, that can go wrong, or that maybe are a little bit non-intuitive. And what I would like to do today is basically try to, you know, talk about some of the pitfalls you might not be aware of, because, you know, as great as a successful Kickstarter is, you know, if you try to get your game crowdfunded and then it doesn't work, you know, it can be really, really bad for the project. And so, you know, I want you to be aware that, you know, it isn't as easy as you might think, but if you do it, you know, do it right, and then it can be a really great thing. So I want to talk about why is crowdfunding great. Then I want to talk a little bit about the backers, things you might need to know. Then the costs associated with Kickstarter. So basically, how much money do you actually, how much money is actually left to make the game. The to-dos before the Kickstarter, during the Kickstarter, after the Kickstarter, and then broadly speaking, how to succeed. There is really one big thing you need to take away from this, which is, you know, if you hit this point, there's a good chance you're going to make it. If you don't hit it, it's almost guaranteed that's not going to work. So there is really one big thing you need to keep in mind. Yeah, first of all, why is crowdfunding great? I already said it. Money is great, community engagement, feedback is great. It's a proof of concept, which is very interesting because, you know, you create this game or you have this game in your mind, but, you know, the Kickstarter is really the first time you sell the game to someone, you know? So you really think about, okay, what is actually great about my game and how can I make other people care about it? And how can I make it, you know, how can I make them care about it in 3 seconds or in 30 seconds, you know? And so it's really, you know, if you can't sell the game in Kickstarter, then you probably also have problems to sell the game later, you know? So it's a great training exercise. And if the game is successful in Kickstarter, there's a pretty good chance that, you know, later down the line, people will be interested in the game as well. And it's great for motivation internally because, you know, instead of developing something and not being sure if anybody cares, or, you know, not really basically throwing all your time and energy in this big black hole, you know, and then maybe a couple of years later you learn if someone cared or not. It's really like, okay, there are people who actually care and people who are excited for your game, and that is great for motivation. Maybe actually let's jump to here. Regarding the money. Something that is really interesting at the moment is that for the Bundesförderung and probably also for the support in for the Games Grant in Hamburg, I'm actually not sure. You basically need to bring some money yourself. You know, that could be maybe you have a publisher and the publisher chips in, or maybe you have money from somewhere. The good thing is that the Kickstarter money, at least for the Bundesförderung, is considered your money, you know? So if you make, let's say, 50,000 euros on Kickstarter, you can basically go to the Bundesförderung and get another 50,000 euros Bundesförderung. Maybe, I'm not sure about this, but maybe you could even go to Hamburg first, get their money, and then go to the Bundesförderung and basically quadruple the money, but I'm actually not sure about that. But even, you know, if you can't quadruple it, doubling the money is already great because it basically means, you know, for every euro you make with Kickstarter, you actually get 2 for development. Yeah, so backer preferences. Basically, what do backers like and what don't they like? First of all, backers like small or small-ish developers. They like PC games, maybe console. They don't really like mobile, so PC or console would be great. PC is better than consoles. And they like niche games, or, you know, let's say non-mainstream games, because, you know, if you think about if you want to support something on Kickstarter and it's a game that, you know, you could just, you know, buy 5 different versions of in the shop next door, then there's not really a great reason to support the game. But if it's like, you know, somebody brings a game's series back or brings a genre back that people care about, and it's something that normally you don't get or nobody is developing anymore, you know, stuff like that, that really works well. So old school games, core games. The first Kickstarter we did back in the day was a turn-based strategy game, and like 20 years ago or so, or even more, 25 years ago, there was a game from Germany, Battle Isle, which is basically like a turn-based hexagonal strategy game. And, you know, basically what we did the first time around was basically, hey, we want to make this game. It's just like Battle Isle. Nobody wants to make turn-based games. You know, is anybody interested in helping us? And that worked, you know, because it was something that you couldn't just buy everywhere. So, yeah, it's very important what your game is, because people like certain, or backers like a certain kind of game. Then it's very open. Then it's very important to be open and honest. People don't want marketing bullshit. You know, they really want to know who they are supporting, why are they supporting you? You know, why don't you do something else? And you know, get the money from somewhere else. So you really need a good story, which, you know, should be true. If you say, you know, I worked on this project for, you know, a long time, and this is really what I want to do, and I want to bring back, you know, this great game series that is so important for me. And, you know, or there's some other good reason why, you know, I'm really, my heart is really into this project, and I did everything I could, but now, you know, I need your help. Something like that works a lot better than, you know what, I just wanted to try it out, and, you know, if I get enough money, then maybe I look into game development or something like that. That's, of course, something that, you know, most people won't get behind. So, yeah, if you're a smallish developer, if you develop a PC game, maybe like an old school game or something that, you know, people have good memories about, or it's something very special, you know, that is not super mainstream. And if you have a really good story, then, you know, that is perfect. What is bad is, you know, if you have a publisher, or if you do a mobile game, maybe free-to-play game, casual games, maybe everything that looks more like, you know, money making and not like, you know, this is really a passion, is problematic. If you start with PR and marketing bullshit, people won't like that. And if it looks like or feels like, you know, you're just using Kickstarter as, you know, a pre-order platform, and the game is funded anyways, you know, and this is just something you do because you can, you know, something like that. That is very bad. So the costs. Let's say you made 100,000 euros on Kickstarter. So basically that is the number on the top right, you know, and whatever 10,000 people spend 100,000 or backed your project with 100,000 euros. Then how much money will actually end up in your pocket for the game? So first of all, there is payment loss. So it's 2 or 3% of the money is just never going to be on your bank account, because, you know, credit cards not working, people not paying or whatever. It's just 2 or 3% is just never real. Then there might be taxes, and that is more complicated. I come back to that. Then there is a Kickstarter share and a payment share. So you have to pay Kickstarter, or if you do separately, maybe a PayPal, give people the opportunity to pay with PayPal, which is not something that Kickstarter offers, or at least used to. I'm not sure if they do it now. You have to pay for that. It's about 8%. Then you have to pay for your rewards, which can be, if it's just digital, it's not that bad. But as soon as it's physical rewards, it is really complicated, because you have to pay for the rewards and you have to pay for the shipment, and that can be really expensive. I mean, if, you know, someone in, you know, South America supports you, you know, then the shipment might be actually, you know, tens of euros to get it there, and you know, that's a lot of money. It's nowadays it's not part of the 100,000, you know, because you can basically you back something and then you pay for shipment separately. But back in the day, it was actually part of the 100,000. So if you were not careful, you know, it could be that someone supported you with, you know, 10 euros or $10, and you had to pay, you know, $20 to get the rewards to them. And you have to pay for the costs of the campaign. So basically, you know, the time and effort you invest in the campaign. Yeah, and at the end, roughly 50% of the money is actually available for the development. It can be a little bit more if you only have digital rewards. Maybe it's 65%, but rarely more than that. And, you know, if you calculate with 50%, you're on the safe side. And of course, with that money, you also you have to make the game you promise, but also if you promised additional features for, you know, stretch goals and stuff like that, of course, you have to do them on top. and you have to pay for community management or updates and all of that stuff you do because of the Kickstarter. So for example, for Iron Harvest, we did over 20 dev blogs, and each dev blog, it takes a couple of hours to write it and to make screenshots and all of that. And, so that's a lot of work that, you wouldn't have if you wouldn't do the Kickstarter. And there are, people, moving again, if you do physical rewards and someone moves to another country and, then you have problems with that, and there needs to be someone who figures out all these different problems that people have, or people claiming they never received a key or the key isn't working, and all of that stuff. So there is work associated with that as well. Back to the taxes. It's actually not clear if you have to pay taxes or not, because the big question is Kickstarter backing, is it a pre-order, or is it basically someone supporting you without a real right to get the results of it? So basically Spende in German, so the idea is that Kickstarter says no, it's not pre-order, because you don't get, it's not like you have any that the developer has to deliver what they promise. They're saying, okay, they do their best to deliver it, and if the game never appears or the game never materializes, it's not like you can sue them or something like that, so they say it's not a pre-order, but others say no, it's a pre-order, and so you have to pay taxes for the pre-order. And yeah, again, this is not something that has been settled. So what we did in the past, we basically took the money that might not be our money, but might be taxes, and just put it away in case that someone comes around and wants 18% from $1.5 million. So we said, okay, we are not spending the money. We actually putting the money away. And if nobody ever comes and asks for the money, then great, 7 years or something like that down the line, it's ours. But it's a little bit tricky, because there are very different opinions about this, and of course it's very complicated because all your backers are from all over the world, so it's not like just German law or something simple. It's very complicated. Okay, to do before the launch. Before you launch, you need to do the administrative preparations, which is basically you need an account, and you need to you need the bank account, and you need all of that, and you need to do certain things on the Kickstarter side. It's a couple of days work. It's not a big deal. Then you have to make the website and the pitch videos, or the video, which can be a lot of work depending on what you're doing. You have to think about the rewards, if it's physical rewards, about suppliers, shipments, and so on. You really need to know in advance what this stuff costs, because otherwise you said, whatever, everybody gets a poster, and then, all of a sudden shipping posters is really expensive. And so you really need to know it beforehand. And you need to start community building and PR. So this is actually the one big point that you need to take with you is if you want to be successful in Kickstarter, you need to bring your own backers, at least for the beginning or for the start of the Kickstarter. It's not like you're doing a Kickstarter and all of a sudden people care about your game and give you money, but it's more like before you start the Kickstarter, you need to really build your community, and the community needs to be excited about the game, and you want people that want to help you, and then finally the Kickstarter is there and they say, yes, great, I give you my money, because this is basically the first wave. This is really where everything starts moving, that you have enough people there who are actually waiting for your Kickstarter. I come back to that in a minute, but this is really what people sometimes misunderstand is this idea that just because it is of Kickstarter, somebody would care. It's similar to releasing a game on Steam. You know, it's not like because you release the game on Steam, all of a sudden magic things happen and a lot of people buying your game. But basically nobody cares, and you need to make sure that there are enough people who are actually buying your game. And so this is really the big challenge. During the campaign, you need to do community support, you need to give feedback, you need to write updates at the beginning, maybe daily, then maybe twice or 3 times a week. You need to make PR, marketing, interviews. Maybe you need new reward tiers or stretch goals, depending on how the campaign is going, but also what your community wants. So being flexible there and being, you know, reactive is very important. And after the campaign, it continues with the community support, with the feedback. You still need to write updates now, maybe once a month or maybe every 2 months the latest. You need to deal with the production of the rewards. You need to do user management. It sounds super easy, but, you know, depending on how many backers you have, if you actually have, you know, tens of thousands of backers, it becomes like a big undertaking to keep all the user data up to date, basically, because, you know, things change all the time, and you really don't want to, you know, handle everything by hand, basically. You know, if you get like, I don't know, 10 or 20 mails every day that some user data changed, you know, you really can't deal with that. And you need to think about a shipment, again, only if you do physical rewards, which is, I mean, I hope this is clear by now that physical rewards are cool, but they're also really, really complicated. And if you're a small studio doing a small Kickstarter, I would really think about either not having physical shipment at all, or only for really high tiers where, you know, you can be relatively sure that it's worth the effort, because it's complicated. Yeah, so again, the big key for your success is bring your own backers. Day 1 to 3 are the most important days in your campaign. Or basically you can say, you know, the first hour is the most important hour. The first day is the most important day. And after that, you know, it's basically each campaign is always like a U, you know, so it starts really high. Then you have like the big slog in the middle. And then at the end, you know, you still, again, you have like stuff is happening. But this first, you know, the beginning of the Kickstarter, the left side of the U, this is, to a big part, this is really your responsibility to make sure that there are enough people there who actually want to support you. So we are saying roughly that you want to make at least a third of your funding goal in the first 3 days. If you know, you're doing 20% or 15% or something like that in your first 3 days, even if your campaign is 40 days long, you know, then you really have a problem. You really need this at least, you know, a third in the first 3 days. Better would be 50%, you know, 100%, but, you know, at least a third of the whole funding goal needs to be there in the first 3 days. And so the question is, you know, how, if you know, let's say you need 5,000 backers, or let's say 6,000 backers, it's easier to calculate. Then the question is, okay, the first 2,000 backers, who are they? You know, I mean, it's not, there are some people, of course, that will, you know, just discover the game on Kickstarter or whatever, or I don't know, come from somewhere. But the vast majority of people, you know, need to be people that are actually activated by you, because they're already part of the community and waiting for the Kickstarter, or because, you know, you make a big PR push or something like that, and you know, you're on all the podcasts and all the on all the websites and so on, and then okay, that can help as well. But it's your responsibility to make sure that, you know, the first third of the people comes into the project the first 3 days. So very roughly speaking, let's say you want a third of the funding goal within the first 3 days. And let's say you have to bring 50% of the early backers. It's probably more, but let's say it's 50%. and let's say the average pledge of all your backers is 25 euros, and you want 300,000 euros in total, that would mean that you need 100,000 euros the first 3 days, from which 50,000, 50%, needs to come from your own fans, and fans giving 25 euros on average. This means 2,000 people. You really need 2,000 people that come from your side and that, you know, support your game because they are waiting for it, basically. And as long as you don't know how you can mobilize these 2,000 backers, you just shouldn't start the campaign, because again, if, you know, in the first few days, there's just a couple of percent, you know, you want, let's say 300,000 euros, and after 3 days you collected 5,000 euros, then nobody is going to chip in, because it looks like, this is dead in the water anyways. And you can do whatever you want, you know, you can then be in other podcasts and on other websites, but it's just fizzling out because it's not exciting and it looks like, you know, a failed project. If you know, after the first day, you are, you know, 80,000 euros in, and then the second day, you are, you know, already a third there, and then after the third day, you are maybe 50% there. You know, then all of a sudden, oh wow, this is a success, you know, and this is like a big thing, and people want to be part of it, and they don't fear that, you know, they go through all this hassle and give you money, and then, you know, the project is never coming along, because it looks like, oh wow, you know, it's like a 35 days campaign, and after 3 days, they're almost 50%. You know, that's cool. You know, I'm going to be part of it. But you really need to figure out how you get these, you know, first people who really support you. Yeah, so that's basically the broad overview. So I think, yeah, the two big takeaways is, or the biggest takeaway is, you need to find, or you need to prepare a community, basically, or you need to have a community that is willing to support you day one, if possible. And the second takeaway is probably really think about physical rewards, especially during Corona times, because it's just a lot of work, and it's really hard to do. And so probably not something you should try if you're a small studio and do it for the first time. Okay, then questions.
All right. First of all, thank you, Jan.